Imagine a girl who did know she had become a woman. Imagine a boy who didn't know he had become a man. Imagine two people surviving alone in a dangerous paradise.
Hit that like button and subscribe, because today we're diving into the unforgettable story of Blue Lagoon. The story begins in the 1890s aboard a sailing ship bound for San Francisco. 7-year-old Emmeline plays on the deck with 9-year-old Richard, but strict Uncle Arthur scolds them, warning that the sea is no place for games. Uncle Arthur is Richard's father and has also become Emmeline's guardian after her parents recently died. Meanwhile, the ship's cook, Patty Button, is doing his job. Richard discovers naked pictures of women in his cabin. Patty catches him and punishes both children. Suddenly, a shout erupts from the deck, "Fire!" The captain orders an evacuation and forces Uncle Arthur into a lifeboat. Patty brings the children on deck and places them in the nearest lifeboat, but in the chaos, they lose track of Uncle Arthur. Thick smoke from the burning ship hides their boat as it drifts out to sea. The morning after the shipwreck, Patty wakes when a trunk crashes into their lifeboat. He searches the luggage and keeps the jewelry, but there's almost no food or water. As the sun sets, day after day passes, the survivors drift under the scorching heat, losing hope of rescue. Emmeline begins hallucinating from thirst, thinking she sees land, but Patty also spots a green island on the horizon. The old sailor hoists the sail, and soon they reach shore. The island appears uninhabited. Patty hears running water and leads them inland to a beautiful waterfall. Now they have fresh water, and bananas grow everywhere. Emmeline also discovers a barrel of rum. In a cave, Richard finds a skull, the remains of a pirate who couldn't escape the island. They realize they must survive carefully to avoid the same fate. While Patty watches for passing ships, Emmeline finds scarlet berries and tries one. Patty stops her, warning, "If you eat these berries, you go to sleep and never wake up again." In the evenings, the survivors sit around the campfire, and the children ask Patty about life. He admits he's been married 7 times and fathered 17 children in ports from Callao to Macau, but he's never seen any of them. On the island, Patty finally becomes a caring father, teaching the children everything he knows. He shows Richard how to swim, fish, tie knots, and signal passing ships. Together, they build a tropical hut. Patty's only flaw is his fondness for rum. One day, he discovers something dangerous in the jungle and establishes the island's first law: never go to that part, because that's where the boogeyman lives. The children find ways to have fun despite being stranded. In the evenings, they look at funny pictures of weddings and social customs. A tipsy Patty entertains them with dancing until he collapses. At dawn, the rum is gone, and Patty floats out to sea on a barrel in search of more. The children wake to find him gone. Using a spyglass, they spot Patty sleeping on some rocks and row to him, but he doesn't wake. It seems the old sailor is dead. Now, the children are alone on the deserted island. That evening, Emmeline cries and begs Richard to take her away. They gather their few belongings and leave by boat, accompanied by a pod of graceful dolphins. Beyond the coral reef, the children discover a stunning beach in a blue lagoon. They might stay on the island for another week. Fish are abundant, and fresh fruit grows everywhere. Here, the children swim with turtles and live like they are in paradise. Years pass, and Richard and Emmeline grow up. Together, they build a cozy hut, following Patty's guidance. Richard becomes a skilled provider, and Emmeline blossoms into a beautiful young woman. One Christmas, Richard dives to the ocean floor and finds a pearl, presenting it to Emmeline as a gift. She loves it and, in gratitude, gives him a passionate kiss. Lately, Emmeline has been having strange, shy thoughts about Richard, just thoughts she isn't ready to share. One day, while bathing in the lake, she notices blood on her fingers. Alarmed, she calls for Richard but quickly realizes what is happening and shamefully sends him away. Richard worries she is hurt and wants to check, but Emmeline stops him. She secretly admires Richard's muscles, and he finds her behavior confusing. What is happening with Emmeline? Despite these small secrets, they remain the closest people in each other's lives. Suddenly, noises emerge from the forbidden part of the island. Could it be the monster? Meanwhile, Richard's flute playing irritates Emmeline so much that they chase each other around their two-story hut. Richard eventually catches her on the ocean shore and pins her to the sand. Emmeline experiences a romantic moment, but Richard only sees it as a childish game. That evening, Emmeline bathes in water glowing with plankton, looking magical. This draws Richard's attention, and he joins her. Later, deep drumbeats sound from the island's interior. Emmeline follows them but is blocked by a cliff. Breaking Patty's rule, she ventures into the forbidden part of the island. There, she discovers a giant stone resembling an altar with blood flowing from it. Terrified, she runs back home. Emmeline believes the bleeding stone is a god and suggests praying to it, but Richard is angry she broke the rule. In a dream, she sees the stone god warning her that Richard's life is in danger. Waking up, she feels relieved to see him beside her and forgets herself, kissing him. She quickly pulls away. Richard now can't stop thinking about her, watching her sleep, gently stroking her, and inhaling the scent of her hair. But Emmeline wakes and rejects his advances. In the morning, Richard feels offended and tells her, "Leave me alone." Later, while collecting coconuts, Richard spots a ship on the horizon. He rushes to the beach to light a signal fire, but Emmeline does not help, merely watching as the vessel drifts away. This frustrates him, as he dreams of leaving the island. Determined, he tries to escape on his own, building a raft and setting out to sea, but it collapses with the first wave. This is already his fourth failed attempt, and Emmeline silently accepts that the Blue Lagoon is now their permanent home. In response, Richard mocks her feminine figure, parodying Emmeline, and earns a coconut to the head in return. The slap enrages him, and he throws her things out of the hut. Undeterred, the brave girl builds her own cozy nest, but the first rain catches her unprepared. Her failure only amuses Richard, but while he plays, Emmeline brings offerings to the island's god. On her way back along the shore, she accidentally steps on a poisonous stonefish. Richard notices she's in trouble. Her temperature rises, and he fears losing her. Emmeline silently asks the god to take her, but for her sake, Richard breaks the only law. He carries her to the forbidden part of the island and places her on the altar, begging the god to save her life. He spends long hours caring for her as if she were his closest person. Soon, Emmeline recovers, and Richard brings her food. Looking around, he notices someone must regularly perform rituals here, perhaps someone from a neighboring island. Now, Richard helps Emmeline with everything, and she regains strength quickly. They swim together again and enjoy their life. While eating papaya, Richard suggests, "Kiss me." Emmeline can't resist, and they kiss. Richard pours papaya juice on her lips and kisses her back. Their hearts beat faster. They realize their love for each other. The couple lives happily, bathing together, spending evenings together, and acting like a true pair. Using their simple knowledge of society, they decide it's time to marry. Emmeline dresses as a bride, and they share their first wedding dance. Richard even learns to ride dolphins, hoping this skill might help them leave the island. Emmeline keeps him entertained, but she begins eating too many coconuts, feeling sick in the mornings. Richard doesn't understand, so she suggests he touch her stomach to feel the movement inside. One day, Richard hears drumbeats and investigates, finding a group of islanders dancing around a fire. At the end of the ritual, they make a sacrifice. Returning to the lagoon, Richard hears Emmeline's screams. Has she been captured? It turns out she is in labor. Her cries fill the island, followed by the newborn's first cries. Richard is confused, wondering where the baby came from. The infant cries constantly, but Emmeline finds he's hungry and feeds him fruit, calming him immediately. She cares for the baby, and Richard prepares spears to defend them. He admits seeing the savages at the altar and vows to protect his family if the natives return. In the morning, Richard visits the place where Patty died and finds his bones on the shore, realizing he too is mortal. Later, Emmeline teaches the little one to swim. They name the baby Patty, and his first word is, "Dad." The young family lives happily until a passing schooner spots them. Sailors call the captain to look at the dirty islanders. Using a spyglass, the man sees a couple with a child and decides to investigate. Emmeline and Richard exchange glances but quickly hide in their Blue Lagoon. Uncle Arthur, observing, doesn't recognize them. The ship sails away, and the family returns to their happy life. One day, Emmeline decides to revisit the old beach and Patty's grave. The family arrives near the ruined hut. Emmeline sadly visits her deceased friend. Meanwhile, little Patty is drawn to the scarlet sleeping berries. Richard goes to gather bananas, and Emmeline, lost in memories, doesn't notice the boat drifting from shore. She realizes too late when the child throws the oar overboard. Richard hears her cries and rushes to help. He swims to the oar, but Emmeline notices a shark approaching him. She throws the oar at the predator, allowing Richard to climb into the boat. The shark circles the boat, and their journey from the island begins. At sunset, Richard shows little Patty the huge sun. They spend the night lying on the bottom of the boat. In the morning, while the parents sleep, Patty swallows a handful of sleeping berries. Emmeline wakes immediately, but it's too late. Patty feels ill and cries. Emmeline keeps him awake, and Richard realizes their former happy life is gone. He had already prepared a handful of sleeping berries and divided them into 2 piles. Tearfully, the lovers swallow them silently and lie at the bottom of the boat, embracing. At that moment, a ship appears on the horizon. The lookout notices 3 people in a boat and alerts Uncle Arthur. The ship changes course, sending a rescue team. As they approach, the rescuers see the young couple and their child. Are they dead? In fact, they are just sleeping. Now, everything will be fine for them. So, if you were stranded on a deserted island like Richard and Emmeline, could you survive and find love? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your answer below.